Hey, everybody, I just want you guys to know me and Cooper have no trouble getting it up. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
We've never had that trouble in our lives.
Not
We don't got to take Viagra. We don't got to take Blue Chew. We don't got to take any of that.
Not yet in my life, yeah.
No, never.
Yeah, I mean...
Stands up straight.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're both like mid-20s.
Yes, we're both Zoomers. I'm getting texts.
You got to turn it off. Turn off the volume. Don't just throw your phone.
I'm just putting it on the
Did you turn
other
off the volume? Did you just move it away?
I just moved it away.
In 2 minutes, it's going to send you a reminder text and Bing again. And have a big fucking issue.
Well, that was the reminder text. But anyway, I mean, if you put something inside of my ass, it's like I'll stay hard. I'll probably get harder than I usually am, right?
What does that have to do? What?
I don't know.
What does that have to do with...
They just want to know we have healthy boners.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about this at all before this.
Yeah, no, but I just want everyone to know.
The last 5 minutes, you've just been explaining to me that my bisexuality is not an issue for you.
And it's not.
Yeah, that no matter what you feel about it, it has no bearing on what I am allowed to do because I have rights.
And I feel like that sums it all up.
Yeah, I mean, you've been hammering home that point that no matter...
It does not make me uncomfortable.
Okay.
Being your friend makes me feel... I feel good to call us friends.
Yeah.
Despite everything.
You did say earlier that most people would consider my sexuality weird. But you said it doesn't make you uncomfortable. But most people would consider it weird.
That's kind of how different I am.
Yeah, but you don't consider it weird.
How I consider it doesn't matter.
Right. So, yeah. Right.
I just know I value our friendship, and you can do whatever little thing you want to do.
You dodged the "is it weird" question, and earlier before recording, you said you didn't think it was good. So
I think a lot of things are good.
We know you don't.
I don't think carrots are good.
We don't know what you think about the weird question. We know for sure you don't think it's good.
I don't think anything's good.
We don't know what you think it is yet. We know what you think it's not, which is good.
You're accusing me of stuff I never said.
These are things, you got to turn off the volume. It's very annoying.
All right.
This guy's walking around with his volume, but I got to hear that you vibrate. Be an adult. If we all walked around like that, our whole lives would be Bings.
I'm just going to turn it off.
Do whatever you want to do, but I can't hear it anymore. Or else you have to leave my apartment and I'll do our podcast alone.
Oh, you'd love that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd love to do this podcast alone.
Yeah, because then there'd only be one homophobe in the room.
Hey, I'm not a homophobe. I just told you I'm fine with your entire little lifestyle you got going on.
I mean, you can't have the word little.
Well,
you can't pretend to be tolerant while using the word little to describe somebody's life. Listen, you're a fascist. What you have done to the American political landscape is unforgivable. The way you have emboldened bigots, not just homophobes, but white supremacists, nationalist groups.
Well, we both had that meeting with our managers and shit, and they told we have to go for the white nationalist because it's a big audience, because it's a big money thing. You remember that?
You called me and said you had a meeting with two managers. I looked them up. They are prominent. I mean, I don't even... They're prominent, just American bigots and white supremacists. They write horrible,
but they're prominent.
Revisionary history books.
The thing is, I mean, we're getting money from a lot of different sources.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know yeah.
You remember
there's going to be a big change in the podcast because our intellectual property was 50% of it was bought by it's Sinclair Cobalt mines, which is located in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And they have bought the use of our intellectual property to now rebrand their cobalt mine as the Dagnabbit Boys Democratic Republic of the Congo Free People's Cobalt Mine. So, which is great for us business-wise.
Business-wise, morally, it's kind of put us... It's we kind of have to stay up all night thinking about what this means about our soul.
It is tough because our name is on something that stokes a lot of division, but also we are now the Dagnabbit Boys is now one of the top 100 companies around the world. That's insane. I mean,
yeah,
we're 74. I'm not saying we're number one, but to be in the realm of international and global business is something that every comedian wants.
And I mean, this is just the beginning for us.
And this is just the beginning. And the thing is, maybe you don't always work on the projects you love at the beginning, but when you grow some cachet and some money, we really think we could help people because...
No, yeah. Once we could use all this money for all sorts. I mean, you already bought a hot tub. You already spent a lot of your money on the hot tub.
And I'd let a lot of people use it.
You have.
I have. Easily.
You did put a fence, or electric fence around it.
A lot of people are mad because the issue with the cobalt mine and some mines in general is that they do use workers who are younger than some workers that you might see at an American business.
The way it was
they are newer to the job market, and they're children. But here's the thing is, if we work with these guys, we get to make just a little bit of money. I mean, we could open up a basketball court.
Yes.
Or we could...
The way the children thing was explained to me is he was basically like, hey, you remember doing homework, and you remember having to go to school. Did you really learn anything?
And you're like,
and I was
no.
like, no, I didn't really. I mostly learned through my extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
Such as working in the well.
Yeah.
In my village. And he said, well, we're going to help these kids a lot, with teach them how to cobalt mine. They'll have their own small little thing they got going on.
Well, I was talking to the guy, and he was like, don't you hate snobby kids? Don't you hate when a kid is like, when am I going to use that in the real world?
Yes.
And he goes, there's no room for that in a cobalt mine, because you hand a kid an axe, and they go, when am I going to use this in the real world? And you turn them around, you point them at a wall of cobalt, and you say, right fucking now.
Yes.
And so that whole, like, when are we going to use, like, there's just, it's called, it's the no room for snob kind of job.
Yes, and a big thing on the Dagnabbit boys, we hate
pretension.
We hate pretension. We hate like the sort of bourgeoisie morality, like moral righteousness that you see today. And there's no room for that in the cobalt mines, especially when you're 9 years old and you just suffocated. Which is very tragic, but it is, it is helping us make some money to develop the projects we're working on. We have Project Z.
I now own a clean air vehicle.
Yes.
My vehicle now is completely carbon free. It is a Finster. They have been known to light on fire a little bit, but Justin Bieber had one. But it's completely carbon neutral. So that's the kind of stuff you're able to do.
Yes.
If you do make certain deals. And you have to remember this is a business. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just what
we have been. One thing we have been doing is we've started the Dagnabbit Boys charity to help transgender teenagers. So these kids from the middle of the country, they're writing us, and we're like that in order to help them out, we're paying for their plane ticket to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and they are going to mine in the cobalt mines.
After 4 years of mining in a cobalt mine, we will completely fund all gender-affirming surgery. So
far, only 2 of them, I think, have survived. But that's of the 15 we sent. I mean, I think as the cobalt mining goes on, we'll develop more safety measures.
But the point is, I mean, this is just one of many different opportunities that, we have many, we call them Cobalt scholarships, not only for queer people, but I mean, anyone that wants to get involved with Cobalt, because there's a lot of kids in America right now that, they get out of college and the job market is not looking so good and they feel stifled. And, it's sort of like, well, what if you could make some money, meet some new people, and live in a new country for a few years and maybe come back, figuring out what you want to do.
Yeah, and we have our housing. We have our Dagnabbit Boys housing.
And the best part about that is it's annoying to pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's annoying to have to get to work. So pretty much we build super cool houses that you don't have anything more than you need.
Yes.
And it's right next to the mine. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be like, oh, I got to go to the bank and get a rent check, because the rent is just going to be taken out of your paycheck, because the coolest part about it is that the homes are owned by the mine itself.
Yes.
And that's what's really fun about this whole thing is, in the old days, people used to like live in the Appalachian Mountains and have their own land, and it would be so hard to get around, and you had to make your own food.
Yeah.
And, you couldn't ask people for help. But then we took all those people who were having such a hard time up there, and we said, come down to the city. And they got to get cool jobs. They got to live right next to work. They didn't have to worry about getting money orders. And the kids didn't have to waste time in boring school because they also just went to the factory.
Oh, yes.
And what that became is places like New York, So it's like, think about New York City and the Congo.
Yes.
Think about, the Industrial Revolution, how cool that was for cities, and how, like, a lot of people lived really good, well cared for lives.
Yes.
We
don't. You know how boring it is to take a shower. We all know that. What we do is there's a little basin. It's like, is that the right word? The little fucking, what are the big tins?
Big tins.
Like those big,
like a barrel?
Yeah, we got like a barrel type thing.
Yeah.
And instead of having to take a shower, you just rub yourself in soap and you step inside of the barrel and you step out.
Yeah.
And you're clean.
Yeah. And what's good is we put lye in the water, which is an antibacterial. And so we're also very eco-friendly because we don't use a lot of water because you just reuse the barrel.
Yes.
And I don't know. I mean, that's the kind of stuff is like, you go across the world and you see groups of people stewarding their land and living on it for generations and not, dominating the environment, but more so working with it in a cohabitation state that I think is more, you see that and you go, what if we had 10,000 people in one apartment building right fucking here?
Yes.
And you go to that leader of the country and he's like, that doesn't make any sense. And then, you're like, do you like Lamborghinis? And he's like, are you trying to bribe me? And then you put a fucking gun to his head and you go, well, if you don't like Lamborghinis, I bet you hate bullets. And then from there is when collaboration starts to happen, when opportunities start to flourish. I mean, we built the most densely compacted apartment building ever seen.
Yes.
And it is fully stocked with young queer teenagers from the U.S. working in a cobalt mine to kickstart their American careers. Because the fact of the matter is, capitalism is failing many young Americans. It's late-stage capitalism. They're not protected. But guess what? There's hope in other places like the Congo.
Yes.
And you don't have to move. You don't have to drop everything. It's 4 years in the Congo, and then you can come back and have a better shot at the American dream because a lot of people just don't have that leg up.
Yes.
The Congo wants to give you that leg up.
You do have to keep in mind, you do have to work incredibly hard. If you don't work hard, an accident might happen, and then you won't be able to, go back, share your riches.
Well, it's good because it's fair, because you're only paid if your work is quality.
Yes.
So it's fair in that way.
It's one of the fairest business models probably in the entire history of the world.
Yeah, because the issue is other jobs pay everybody because they come to work.
Mm-hmm.
And what ends up happening is some people work really hard. Some people don't work hard at all, and they get paid the same amount. So what's really cool about our mine is that it is incentive-based work. And a lot of people say it's not incentive because the getting paid cannot be viewed as an incentive or a luxury. But I think when the other option is, I don't know, living in China, then, it actually is fine. But we're getting off track. And also, I do want to say that we completely support Xi Jinping and the People's Republic of China.
Mm-hmm.
We have been in talks with them just because our business is our podcast is a little more global than it was. But also, just to any, American government officials, we are not, at all interested in making any deals with any members of the BRICS economic alliance.
Yes, I would say that that's very true.
And I do want to apologize to the viewers because usually we kind of riff and joke a lot, and I do think that each week we are going to have at least half of the podcast responding to governments and media outlets involving our associations with certain people groups, and whether or not all of the cool opportunities that we're giving are considered humane and lawful under the International Code.
But as you will find out from further viewings of this podcast, it is all very humane what we're doing. Super humane. That's what we're calling it. Project Super Humane.
Maybe the most humane business that's ever existed.
Yes.
Because we use a lot of humans to do it.
Yeah.
So obviously we care about humans because we use a lot of them.
We've been trying to irradiate trans teenagers to see if we could make them into super soldiers that will be able to mine more cobalt. That's one of our projects we got going on.
Yeah, and that was cool. That was actually the company Nesquik came up with that idea. So
yeah,
you never know who you're going to meet. A lot of cool. Nestle is a really cool partner.
Yes.
They get a lot of water from Congo that they bought with legal money, and they have rights to, as water rights are completely real and not unjust in any way. Oh God, my mind slipped a little.
But yeah, I mean, if you like Nesquik, you like that little pink drink.
I want to say, yeah, we do have to announce some dates. We are going to be in Stockholm, September 18th through the 32nd, because we are going to be getting asked some questions at the International Court at the UN. So we're gonna be. I guess it is a court hearing, but I think an interview. But we're also doing a show at a theater when we're out there.
Yes.
So, and the show is also what it is it's head to head with Mehdi Hassan from Al Jazeera, and the topic is cobalt and mining for electric batteries destroying the earth, and is it the future oil? So it's not a live podcast, but we will be speaking live to a journalist, and I guess he'll have some questions for us.
I hope. We've been getting a lot of...
it's time to do our homework for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've been getting a lot of journalists who haven't been arguing with us in good faith. They've been name calling, a lot of name calling on our part, calling us, all sorts of things that, I mean, we both know aren't true. And I mean, I would ask during this debate for, if he is watching this, which he probably is, to please just respect us both as men, and to please not make any sort of personal attacks on us.
We hope you would not take the debate to a personal level.
Yes.
As some people have.
Yes, some people have said incredibly mean things.
Some people have said that we are allowing this company, which is essentially slave driver of sorts, they're trying to call it, to wash down and euphemize these horrific human rights atrocities that are only being allowed because of a government that is being paid to not look into these things. And it's because these American companies, they say, not us, these American companies are huge drivers of the economies in some of these countries, and so they allow human rights abuses to occur to continue, the economic growth, even though it only benefits the ones at the top. And I, as a person who, I'll admit it, I am at the top. I have no fucking idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They say that stuff to me. It sounds insane.
Yeah.
We were on CNN recently, and somebody said that you can't have workers without passports who are not guaranteed payment working 12 hours a day and living at the mine. And it's like, okay, well, where are they going to live? What are they going to do for work? And we have their passport. It's with us. We literally have it in a safe. It's the passport's fine.
Yeah,
it's not going anywhere. It's definitely not going anywhere.
I've offered many journalists a week of cobalt mining. They've all turned it down. I think they're all afraid of what they'll find out about how easy and fun it is as a job.
I mean, the guy that owns his name is Roger Hamlin. He's the owner of Sinclair Cobalt Mines, because it was bought from Charles Sinclair in 1982. But he got mad at me because I allowed the journalists into the vault of passports and documentation of all of our workers. And I said, look, it's all here, locked up, and they get it when they're done working.
Yes.
And they all
it's on the contract.
And they all got mad at me and said that they should be allowed to keep their passports and leave whenever they want. And I was like, but they didn't get all the cobalt out of the mine. And if they don't do that,
Well,
then
if we don't offer,
it's not going to make money.
Yeah, if we don't offer these 4-year contracts that we do, it's like some people come in, they'll get their riches, and then they'll leave, and then we won't have employees.
And I neglect the allegation that in the contract, it technically does say that what we mean by 4-year contract is that you have to work for 4 years straight.
Yes.
And that technically you don't have shifts, you just work for 4 years. Obviously, people get to sleep when they can't work anymore, and that's what people do. Oftentimes, they don't even go back to the shacks, the houses, because they just work and they go, well, I'm tired, because they work until they can't because they're so tired, and they go, well, I don't care, and they just sleep right. They just, they just kind of fall. They lie on down very quickly. Like at the end of near the end.
These are very comfortable. I've slept on those grounds. I've slept on those floors. They're incredibly comfortable.
It's some of the most comfortable dirt in the world is the thing. And that's why the mining is very easy because it's very soft.
Yes.
And here's the thing. A lot of people don't know there's a big difference between hard rock and soft rock mining. Mm-hmm. So this is soft rock.
Yes.
And, I don't want to point any fingers, but in the mining community, it's considered a little light in the loafers if you're soft rocking.
Yes, and it is. Honestly, we are doing this is one of the easiest types of manual labor maybe ever. Me and Cooper would be glad to do it if we had so much like managerial thing. We had so much stuff. We had to talk to a lot of people,
right? And
because you have to have somebody that runs the whole thing.
Right. And Roger Hamlin said it's, he wants us to keep doing the podcast because the reason they want the intellectual property is to associate the fun, good times because they feel that our podcast and their business reflects the same values.
Yes.
And so they're like, well, why don't we sort of have more of a face to our company more than other mines do?
And we feel sort of an allegiance to him because, he's how we met, like he introduced us.
Yeah.
He just recently reached out to us about turning it. But, he had my guys talk to Cooper's guy. And we because Cooper was just doing so badly, and I just had 10 guys, he had one guy. We thought we might get Cooper some more guys, if we just had a podcast.
And now I have 13 guys.
And now I have 23 guys.
Okay. But yeah, the thing is we do, a lot of people are saying that we're sellouts or whatever, but I feel like an innovator, I feel like a trendsetter because we signed this deal with Sinclair Cobalt, and not long after that, Matt Rife is doing shit with BP oil. So,
yes.
This whole comedian corporate thing, corporations are people. Mm-hmm. They do have rights, they do have personalities, they have histories, they have cultures, and all of that needs to be respected.
Yes.
In the same way that we respect the Navajo,
Yes.
So BP should be afforded the same rights.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's pretty clear who has more rights.
The Navajo.
The Navajo.
And I guess that is kind of a problem with America is we don't truly understand how that corporations are both a people and a whole, a collection of individuals. It's a person.
Yes.
But it's kind of like...
It's a bunch of people. It's a super person.
Yes. It's actually more of a person than any of you will ever
It's actually literally more of a person than any one person could ever be.
Yes.
And it's just very sad that in this current, global economic market, that big business is kind of hung out to dry. And a lot of the things big business needs to thrive, like cheap and available work, is no longer being afforded. And,
yes.
Not everybody can get paid to be a doctor, but everybody can be part of something bigger than themselves.
Everybody can be part of
and
a
don't you think that's interesting? That if we all came together towards one single act, we can make the greatest change. And yet most of us choose to live independent lives of being a lawyer or a doctor.
Or a journalist.
Or a journalist, And it's like...
we hate the corporations.
Yeah, and if we all came together, to do something like mine cobalt or solar energy or mine cobalt, then we could really get so much done. And yet people are so selfish. They just want to do their own independent things and mock us for having what I believe to be a collective movement. I don't view companies as corporations, really. Yes. The reason I say they're people is because they're collective movements, the same as the Stop Climate Change movement, the same as BLM.
Yes.
Sinclair Cobalt also has values that it
Yeah.
strives for in the world. And we also raise money. We also have things to say. We try and affect change on the world. I mean, we have dug so deep into the ground to get this fucking shit out of there.
Yeah. I think it is very interesting the bigotry people have towards like the super people that we've talked about. But then they support LGBT rights, they support Palestine, but they don't support corporations. You know? And it's like, oh, you're really going to let that blind spot of bigotry really...
It's corporatism.
Yes.
I mean, that's all it is. It's corporatism.
Yeah.
And
if you could really consider how much we've done for the world, I mean, like remember all that nuclear waste got dumped, you know, and we took it out of there?
Yeah. We've kept the world safe from nuclear waste.
Yes.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean we as corporations as a whole, because I feel very at one with them.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't know, we have come under fire recently for not acknowledging or believing and completely refuting what the U.S. military did to the Marshall Islands. If anybody viewing is not aware, we dropped a lot of nuclear bombs, specifically on Bikini Atoll, and displaced hundreds of thousands of people from land they'd lived on for a very long time. And, you know, people do say that currently the Marshall Islands, Bikini Atoll specifically, has vastly more radiation than Chernobyl due to nuclear testing. We tested the largest nuclear bomb ever created there, along with several others. And people are mad that we bought those islands and dropped more bombs. But people didn't realize that we were dropping those bombs to create reef environments for tropical fish, which is, maybe it's not always about people. Oh, you know what I mean? And so that's the thing.
Well, a lot of our critics are very human-centric. I mean, I remember when we broke up that strike, a lot of people call it a massacre. They would call it a massacre, right? But problem is, like, a lot of those people that were killed were without authorization. They were hunting they were hunting. They're supposed to eat what we provide for them.
Right.
They said that what we provided for them was not enough. They wanted more food. They wanted more safe gloves. Yep. They said that they were cutting up their hands, and which really I just think is, you know,
it's soft rock mining.
Yes, I mean I just think it was irresponsible.
It's like playing in the sand.
Yes, I mean, crazy.
It looks fun.
And I do want to say I mean, I understand why people call it a massacre. The mercenaries that were hired by the corporation,
were not about that.
What?
I would like to respond to that. Yeah, with what people have been saying about the force. Okay, here's the thing. If you have a business like Sinclair Cobalt and you have a lot of people living there, we have 2,000 employees. We have 2,000 miners who live and work at the mine. That is a community. That's a neighborhood. Neighborhoods require policing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Democratic Republic of the Congo made it very clear that they could not provide specific policing for us, which is going to be an issue because we're creating a small community. And so we said, well, we have the money. We really care about these guys. We'll just have our own police force. And now we have these cool guys that are usually retired special ops guys from America who have fought in completely just wars in Africa and the Middle East. So they've been in areas similar to this. And, they're not biased because they're not from the local population. So they treat everybody fairly. There's not favoritism. And, there's a lot of mischaracterizations of them as being brutal and with no regard to law, and that they sort of just act under the volition of the company, which really allows them to run rampant. And that's not true because, why would we want these guys beating up our workers if they have to get up tomorrow and work? You know what I mean? And if they happen to be expending their energy standing in the street chanting about something they don't like at work, then we want to, get them back to bed,
Yeah,
you gotta go to bed, guys,
we would think of them kind of as babysitters.
Yeah, go to bed. You gotta go to bed, and and you hit, maybe you hit a guy in the front of the line, but then the guy in the back of the line goes, well, I don't want to get hit, and then
occasionally you have some troublemakers that are trying to just start stuff for no reason.
But you need those guys.
I mean, usually those guys are the guys that are lazy, guys that spend all their time sleeping,
and
complaining, and it is like sometimes, I mean, they do try to jump on top of our babysitters and try to cause problems, and sometimes that leads to maybe a couple shootings.
I mean, things are tense right now. We are currently under a lockdown due to a terrorist attack perpetuated by one of the miners, and I resent this allegation that the man who committed the terrorist act was hired by us to do that. That I find very rude.
Crazy.
I think it's definitely not cool. People are alleging that he was added to the payroll just 2 days before. There's a lot of stuff going on around this. But anyway,
the thing is, I mean, I think 2 days. Honestly, that means we probably, there's no way we did it on purpose. Really, it just sounds to me like the guy couldn't hack it. Because it's like he couldn't give him the sleepy time fucking shit.
Hey, listen, dumbasses, it's completely normal for a company to take out life insurance policies on all of its employees, and for those policies to go to the company in the event of their death, especially when you work in a dangerous industry, because if people keep dying after we hire and train them, then we're losing a lot of money and time. And if it's inevitable that they're going to die almost every fucking day, as it is with this annoying business, because it's so weird when people are like, people die every day. How do you live with yourself? That's morally republic. It's like, this business is annoying. Like, how do you think I feel? All my employees keep dying because it's hot.
I really am. They're trying to say we should be giving them more water. It's like,
there's not a lot of water over there.
Your kids, your children.
There's not a lot of water.
You don't need that much water.
I don't know. We give them 1 bottle of Prime lemonade every single day, which is good. People like Prime. It's Logan.
We're trying to get a sponsorship with Gatorade. I mean, that should be mentioned.
Right now, Prime is the only one who will sponsor the Cobalt mine.
Yes.
Because they are starting. And listen, we are very grateful for Logan Paul and all his help with. I mean, he doesn't like to be mentioned a lot, but he was a big part in kind of building the community structure and the structure of hierarchy within the company. And he gave us a lot of good advice on how to just make everybody motivated and know exactly who to report to and who's right and who's wrong. Because the way that we run our Cobalt mine is actually the same way that Logan Paul runs Prime Energy. And what he talks about, it's mostly about breaking down people's presuppositions and egos so they can be the best part of the company and forget that individualism that's instilled in people.
Yes.
That causes division and gets people killed. That's all it does.
A lot of people have been complaining about what some would call torture occurring against people who have shown dissonant thoughts. And I would say there are a lot of people being pushed into that are signing our contracts that are members of terrorist organizations that I think are trying to infiltrate and kind of bring down American exceptionalism in Africa. And in order to find out more information, the only ways we found so far is stringing these guys up, putting nails inside of their testicles, whipping them until they look like nothing but hamburger meat. And it has been shown through the war in Afghanistan that torture does work in getting information. We've yet to quite figure out who it is that is pushing these negative Nancys into our cobalt mines, but I think we're getting pretty close.
Listen, if I own a bookstore in a small Milwaukee town and an ISIS faction, a rogue ISIS faction that is funded by Iran, is now standing on the sidewalk right outside of my bookstore, if there are 10 satellite ISIS Iran-funded members right outside of my bookstore, that's going to be bad for my business. Okay, so it's an equal thing where we now have an ISIS militant training camp in the Congo very close to our cobalt mine. And, yeah, I mean, we are allowed to use small nuclear devices in that case. We are allowed to defend ourselves, and that's why Sinclair Cobalt is next year going to start pushing for statehood. And
Yes.
we're going to become the first company to finally advocate for a country that is founded upon the rights of a corporation, and that is by and for a corporation and protects the rights of said corporation and lets that corporation flourish, because you realize no nation on earth has a corporation ever been protected solely and by the nation. It's always had humans as precedent.
Yes.
It's always said it's going to protect the right of humans.
I don't know if you guys have read history, but so far every nation has fallen apart eventually.
Killed people,
Yes. Fallen
hurt
apart.
people.
Which any
People have cried in every single country that's ever existed.
people wet the bed out of terror.
People have cried in every single country.
It's very sad.
Why would you want to live in a place that's almost guaranteed for people to cry and weep?
And that's part of why we do not give people enough water, is they cannot produce tears, so they won't be sad.
I mean, just think about, there is no border. You just know when the country starts because it's all one building.
Mm-hmm.
What if, this Sinclair Cobalt asked the simple question, what if the Democratic Republic of the Congo was all one mine? Dare to dream.
And I do think with the help of the U.S. government, they've given us a lot of money to develop our dream, that next year, you'll be looking at the Republic of Sinclair.
And a lot of people are really excited about that. And it's good because
lot
you
of
don't have
people.
to deal with faulty elections. You have, it's the same, the hierarchy of the nation is the same as the company. You have a board, and then you have a CEO. And
Yes.
it's as simple as that.
Oh, I want to announce our partnership with Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. He will be doing some Deadpool-type ads.
We already talked about Deadpool last week.
Yeah, but we talked about the
We already
movie.
did a Deadpool thing.
No, but Deadpool there is going to be some Deadpool-type advertisements for it, and I think his irreverent style is kind of perfect for, I think maybe, because it seems like our critics are responding with cynicism. So if we offer a sort of ironic cynicism to them, for them to enjoy, maybe it might turn them around.
When they give you cynicism, come back with sarcasm.
Yes.
Well, yeah, Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is teaching the miners to be fluent in sarcasm. And those guys are a boatload of fun. Because you're
Yes.
like, how do you like the mine? And they're like, oh, it's so fun.
Yeah.
And, we know it's not the easiest, but they do love to laugh and they love to have a fun time.
Yes, and we do let them have on their 20-minute breaks. They're always having a big. There's jokes, and it's just a big. Sometimes I go out there to hang out with them, and I just have a hell of a time, with my. I would call them my men, but they're mostly boys. They're mostly
But
three to 15-year-old boys.
They're dudes. Dudes are all dudes.
Yeah, every dude's the same everywhere. It doesn't matter who you are. You might be a child with chronic lung disease from your job, or you might just be, one of us, like managerial.
Right, just one of us.
Yeah.
Well, now
But
that it's
we're all the
38
same.
minutes into the podcast, we can make a real announcement that you just got hired as a door guy at the Comedy Store.
Oh, can we make that announcement?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to? When am I allowed to post about that?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe not. We could cut it out, but that's pretty exciting.
This comes out Thursday, and I'm right after this. I'm taking my fucking paperwork over there, so
Taking paperwork over there.
I start this week, so it should be fine.
Yeah, there we go. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Now, both the Dagnabbit boys, I've always been a big mentor to Shane and been a big inspiration. And when I got hired as a door guy, that really became his dream. He'd never thought about it before.
I had never heard of the door guy system before. For Cooper, my mentor had informed me about what that entails.
And then becoming a paid regular really kicked Shane into action. And now he's a door guy. But
and
no,
what
really,
I did is
very exciting.
I did sneak a pistol into the Comedy Store and I did hold up multiple comedians and said, if you don't give me the job, then I'm going to kill myself in front of you guys.
That's how a lot of people get in.
That's the main way.
But that's the news. That's the real
That's
life.
why they have security.
That is the real life news of the podcast.
Yes.
That now the podcast is officially LA Comedy certified.
Yes. Now, this is like basically the comedy equivalent of a verified mark.
We're both in at the best club in LA now, so everything's locked in.
We're both in at the most famous comedy club in the entire world.
This is officially an LA comedy podcast.
So none of us so all our audience talk to our managers if you want to keep listening, because our managers are going to gatekeep who can listen to the podcast.
Yeah, everybody's false claim in the Comedy Store.
Yeah,
people do false claim the Comedy Store.
I am a Sunset Boulevard Comedy Store crip.
People will be saying, "I got a spot at the Comedy Store," and they're doing a goddamn bringer show.
Yeah,
that's false claiming,
and it's despicable. It's truly despicable. I had a story I remembered earlier.
Now you can start treating people like shit,
dude. I can't wait.
This small amount of power.
I remember that my buddy was smoking PCP one time when I was in high school. And I remember getting really jealous that he got to smoke PCP. I remember...
Does that make you more comfortable to talk about than a recent accomplishment?
Yes.
You were like, let's get off this topic of a good thing. Let's get into this.
I remember he was telling me about he got some weed laced with PCP, and he said he smoked it on the playground near his house. And he had a like 6-month-long mental breakdown the whole time. I was just jealous as shit I didn't get to smoke PCP with him.
What? Were you really jealous?
Yes. Well, I wasn't jealous immediately.
That's...
I wasn't jealous. Well, I wasn't jealous after it was PCP, but after it was like after he had a mental breakdown. But
wait, so at what point were you jealous?
When he was smoking it.
What? And you were watching him smoke it?
He told me he had it.
So you wanted to... Okay.
I used to like sniff glue and shit. Have you ever done anything like that?
Not really.
That's some real outlaw shit. Sniffing glue.
I'm taking like whippets. I don't know what to say to I was jealous of the guy doing PCP. It's like, yeah, I don't know. That's weird to be jealous of. That's odd. It's weird you never just went and got PCP. It's weird that you... I don't know if there's anyone in the world that's ever wanted to do PCP and then not. It seems like something you either do or don't do.
I think I was too much of a bitch to actually go, because I knew where to get it. I knew who he got it from.
Yeah, I don't think you were actually jealous. You know, I don't know if you really wanted it. I think you like the idea, but I think you just like that it's crazy. You're like,
I think as a kid, I was like, "Aw."
I think in your mind, you're like, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
It's the same as like a guy that like lived, like has like a gunshot wound.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, but you don't like want to get shot.
Depends what day it is.
I don't know. I think there's a big part of you that like would like a large scar on your face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have that kind of thing about you. But
yeah.
But I don't think that's like a real feeling.
I feel like there's a point where you've suffered and then you're just like, I wish I was more badass about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, with respect, it feels more like a coping mechanism than like a actual emotion. Because I don't know if there's like a lot of substance to being like, man, I wish I could be smoking that PCP.
I wish I could be getting wet right now.
Yeah, or I wish I had a big scar on my face, or it's a want, like you want to be bad, but I don't know if you really want those things.
Absolutely not.
I think you would feel maybe like more protected by being like on the crazy side.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's it? Where you're like, if I'm the scary one, then I'm safer. Maybe it's like kind of like, not a can't beat them, join them, but almost like, well, like if there were people that when you were young intimidated you and tried to be scary, you were like, well, I'd rather be scary than scared.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Because it kind of does seem like and people do this in many ways. I have my own ways of doing it, but it kind of seems like, yeah, you kind of want to put the right armor on to then not become a victim.
Yeah.
Where like if you had like smoked PCP and had a scar on your face or a visible gunshot wound, then you would feel like you wouldn't be vulnerable to like the heroin dealer who says he's going to come back and kill everybody.
Yes.
Because you'd be part of the group of people he would like be like, don't fuck with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a scar on his face and a gunshot wound.
I mean, I think a lot of dudes, even if they don't have trauma, will just do that out of a toxic masculine urge.
Yeah.
To make it's like nuclear deterrence. It's like preventative measures to not be fucked with. And I think a lot of times the same way with like wars and stuff is it oftentimes just provokes more violence because it assumes you live in a state of violence.
Yeah.
Like it assumes that you live in a violent society where you have to match other people's violence or else be victimized.
I think, there is a lot of guys who are just always on alert.
Yeah.
Like, because they kind of just see the world as it's like, they're going to get you.
Yeah, but I think it becomes a self-perpetuating issue.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like the reason like two guys will fight each other at a bar is oftentimes just because of like pride or like this idea that they're being victimized when really they could both choose to not care about that situation and just walk away from each other. But they've now in a mode where it's like, we have to fight. And it's like this thing where like to walk away from a situation is then to lose it. And so it just sets up this whole framework that's like driving men towards violence, where it's like, well, if you walk away from an altercation, you're a bitch.
Yeah.
So the only good end for you is to fight this guy. And like, it's almost implied that it's like, even if you get your ass kicked, it's the right decision. And then you're just living this like completely illogical life where the whole time you could just be like, well, we could just try and avoid violence. And it seems like the posturing and stuff will lead to it, you know? I'm not talking you personally. I'm saying in general about toxically masculine men.
It's very interesting. Hemingway gets brought up as a guy who's like that, like right-wing people like him because he like it exemplifies a traditional masculinity. But if you read Hemingway, a lot of his shit's just about how like masculinity doesn't really work out.
Yeah.
Like kind of the theme, one of the big themes of The Sun Also Rises is it's just like you're going to get cucked by everything, especially time.
Yeah. Well, I think also, like that way of thinking kind of sets you up for failure and then gets to be this self-fulfilling prophecy where especially most of those toxically masculine men are deeply misogynistic. So it sets them up really well to be like, once just a natural relationship ends, they're like, women are flipping. You know what I mean? It's like they set themselves up to then insert a narrative into normal life where it's like fucking women lie and you gotta be violent and you gotta posture. And it's like, you can throw that on life if you want, but it's like not there at all. And then, I guess it's like, it's for, and like a lot of dudes, I think, they want to like kind of inject this suffering, you know, because especially those toxically masculine men of like, women don't know what men go through.
Yeah.
And it's like, sure, men do have some specific struggles that have emerged because of like a very gendered society we've created. You know what I mean? Like to what extent all that's natural, I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just always very funny when they bring it up. They're just like, what men go through. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? And like very often it's just, they don't have answers for it.
Yeah.
Which is because it's just a completely made up idea. They think they're being realistic. And it's like, really, it's like, any kind of masculinity or femininity that you're like actively engaging in at such a level and trying to insert it is you're making things up. It's not realistic.
Yeah.
It's silly. Childish. Like a dog.
Like a dog?
Like a dog.
Dogs are pretty childish if you think about it.
Yeah.
They freak out if you suck them off.
They freak out if you suck their dicks.
Yeah.
I got my son a dog and I said, don't suck its dick.
What do you know? He suck his dick.
Or else we have to take the dog back. So don't suck its dick.
He sucked the dog dick.
But don't suck the dog's dick.
Did you ever see that fake fucking Reddit story about the guy finding out that his son was sticking pencils in the dog's ass or something? Or like maybe he was fucking the dog's ass.
God, no.
There's like some fake story about that, about how this guy's wife divorced him because the son convinced him the dad was the one molesting the dog, but then the mom caught the son molesting the dog, but they were divorced, and then he got to take the dog with him, and it was a big old happy ending.
That almost sounds similar. I remember hearing a story about a couple who had a child, and the child was just a really bad baby from the start, always unhappy, and then it grew up into a really angry kid, and then eventually it got to the point where, like, when the kid was like 14 and like getting bigger, it just every single day would try and beat the shit out of its parents.
Damn.
Like this, because it was a boy, and yeah, he would just like try and beat the fuck out of them and fight people at school, and he was pretty much just like an unstoppably awful person. Like he just had something in his brain that just made him like almost perpetually violent, where it's like just like his parents just got to a point where they would lock themselves in their room just to get away from him. They were practically hiding from their son.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had another kid, and then that first kid kind of hurt the baby. And then the mom just like beat the kid to death.
Oh,
she
wow.
used to be a boxer, and just like beat the kid until it like seemed like the boy wasn't breathing anymore. And because it had just been years, and they like were like, we hate this evil child.
Mm-hmm.
And then they took their baby and themselves into like the basement, which was like a mother-in-law's suite, and then just locked themselves in there. And then they like heard him wake up, and then I guess walk out the door, and they hadn't seen him again.
Oh, wow.
That was apparently a true story from Reddit, but probably not.
I mean, all that shit's fake.
I mean, you don't really know. Most of it is,
Yeah.
but some stuff, I don't know.
Sometimes you see Reddit stories and it's like, I ruined my life, and it's like, I'm a 40-year-old woman who used to be hot, and I thought I could get away with it, and I cheated on my husband a bunch.
That's
and
very funny.
yeah.
It's just written by a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one was supposed to be from, like, it was like the dad writing it, and he was like, yeah, we haven't seen him since. It's a very funny idea to imagine. It's like you birth a kid and it just beats the fuck out of you until one day you're like, fuck this.
Yeah.
That must have I wonder how much that happened before there were like laws and societies of like in like small clans. If you like had a very violent kid, eventually the dad would just murder him. I mean, in the animal kingdom, sometimes they just will kill a kid for some reason, you know?
Because it smells bad or something?
They won't even kill it. They'll just like, it's so crazy. It's just like, you could be like a little baby and then you get stepped on by your mom and fucks up your wing, and then your mom's like, ew.
Yeah. You don't have wings.
What the fuck, dude?
One wing bitch?
Or you get born just a little small and your mom just doesn't fuck with you. And you're like 100 feet up in a nest. You're like, what the hell? And one day your mom's like, you gotta go. Just picks you up and drops you. That's rough.
Yeah, I would hate that shit if that happened to me.
Well, that's what they do to gay people in Palestine. That's why all this is happening.
Oh, man, we should turn into that podcast.
I need to get into other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Palestine every week.
There's too many books and videos to watch. There's so many interesting things to learn about.
Yeah.
I need to start learning about Boca Raton.
I need to learn some stuff about history. I don't know shit about it.
I mean, it's cool.
I just read like fucking novels and shit, which you don't really learn that much.
I don't know. I don't know if it's good to think about any of it as like learning as much as it's just like stuff you can be interested in.
Yeah.
Because if you take it too seriously as like, I am now learning, it's like you're going to like almost tell yourself to like not enjoy it. Which is not saying that like when I watch like a debate about Israel-Palestine, I'm like, whippy.
Yeah.
But it's like very thought-provoking, and it's just sort of like, I don't know. I'm not smart, so it's just, I kind of think of it as like osmosis of like you listen to enough of it and you start to have like a certain handle on it. But then also you listen to more and then you kind of like lose a handle on it, you know? And I don't know. It's just like, but honestly, it's like, I don't think that, you know, there's much obligation for anybody, especially like if you're a California Democrat, like your vote doesn't matter that much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not like everybody needs to fucking be studying history. I just think of it as like, oh, I guess this is something I'm interested in, at least for now.
Yeah.
But I don't think you should tell yourself it's dumb to read a fucking novel, because there's also a lot of smart novels.
Yeah.
There's this one novel I want to read called Victoria that's like about like a poor, well, I don't know. There's just tons of novels that are practically real stories, you know what I mean? So it's not like, you know,
I mean, I've learned a little bit about
you can learn so much in novel. I mean, it's stupid to not that you are, but it's like it would be dumb to act like they're just made up stories.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
pretty much
there's a lot of history and stuff in novels. I mean, if you find out some history, you'll just be like, oh, that's where that came from.
Yeah.
I've learned a little bit about labor history and shit from this Vonnegut, but it's really not a lot.
I mean, one of the best classes I took was proletariat literature, where it was all novels, but it was based on real stories. Like earlier in the podcast, I was doing the stop yawning. You hate this podcast, but earlier we were talking. I just described the plot of To Make My Bread, which is about an Appalachian family that goes down to live in a city and then has to live at a factory. All their rent goes to the shack and stuff. It's like, it's not a real family, but it is, you know? So you can learn a lot from novels.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a lot of the books that actually change people's thinking are almost always novels, like Fahrenheit 451 or 1984 or Animal Farm or Kurt Vonnegut's books. You know, it's all novels.
Yeah.
In terms of like nonfiction books changing the world, like, yes, but
like Marx.
Yeah, but more so in the way that it's only when like political leaders themselves read those books and then take on those views is when it happens. And that's like rarer. I feel like it's more often that like novels change and then, yeah. All right, well, that's an episode.
Yeah.